Okay, I'm not going to elaborate on my question about pornography, but you can at least know where I'm coming from, right?
Mm-hmm.
On that, it's an ongoing thing, and Lord knows I'm glad Hugh Hefner came along and changed standards a little bit, especially when I was younger. But like all virtues, there's a golden mean, right, to be found. What do you think about that?
That there's
that's a sensitive question, I know.
Yeah,
but
no. I very strongly defend individual freedom of choice for mature individuals with respect to sexual expression, because the term pornography, like the term hate speech, has no legal meaning. And we tend to use it as a stigmatizing term for whatever sexual expression we personally find distasteful.
You don't like.
And yet the Supreme,
that is correct. No one could debate what you said there.
The most famous definition was Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart. People think he was joking, but he was completely serious. He said, I cannot now define pornography that should not be constitutionally protected, but I know it when I see it. And that's the point. It has to come down to each individual. And in terms of efforts to show that there is some adverse impact of any subset of sexual expression on people's attitudes, has been tried and tried and tried and completely failed. I recently reviewed the social science literature again. Sometimes you can show a brief correlation between intense exposure to violent sexual expression and a more accepting attitude toward actual violence. Very fleeting, and it's a correlation, it's not a causation, and it's never been shown to translate into actual action. So I think this demonization of sexual expression is something peculiar to the United States. We have much greater tolerance for hate speech and for defamation and for all kinds of vitriolic political speech about public issues. But when it comes to sexual expression, we're very squeamish and puritanical compared to Europe and other countries. They laugh at us. And I think from right to left, there tends to be this assumption that there's something uniquely dangerous about sexual expression. In the 90s, we had the Mies, or in the 80s, we had the Mies Pornography Commission, Attorney General Ed Mies, and on behalf of the religious right and cultural conservatives, who said that pornography undermines the traditional American family. At the same time, you had the radical feminists saying pornography undermines women's dignity and equality. They had exactly the opposite views about the role of women and the relationship of women to families, but they agreed that there's certain sexual expression that is dangerous to their own views. And I think, if you added up all of the sexual expression that the radical feminists wanted to suppress and the religious right wanted to suppress, you'd end up with basically nothing.
No, it's a tough one, and I'm going to leave that one. I'm just going to throw in my own thing. I don't see physical harm or anything like that, but I do think for young men, it harms their mind and their relations with women.
But I know that's, and it might seem intuitive, and I really have read studies recently, because the Woodhull Freedom Foundation asked me to endorse a new project they have that is countering the myths and misconceptions, and I believe they're intellectually honest meta studies of social scientists saying, well, it doesn't necessarily. You would say, it gives them these fantasies that are unrealizable in the real world, and so it undermines their ability to have actual relationships with actual women. I've read that a lot.
Right.
But the scientific evidence doesn't actually document that.
Well, I trust your investigation in that, which I have done Zippo of, and so it could be just a phobia on my part. But I would say some of the social science, not focusing on pornography, but I am getting data from college kids or just out of college that they're not satisfied with their social relations, and people are having a hard time figuring out why.
Yeah. And that might be going back more to the Jonathan Haidt point, that they're just not having enough interaction with actual people, not just with respect to sex, but conversations or anything else.
Exactly.